I am vengeance. I am vengeance. Hey, what's up, killers? It is your final girl, Mel, and this is my Killer Podcast, and I want to thank you guys so much for joining me today. We are talking about the Batman. I recently went to the movie theater this past Saturday for opening weekend of The Batman starring Robert Pattinson. This is a superhero movie. I know I am not known for going to see these superhero movies, and I definitely am not known for talking about them on my channel, but we will talk more about why this is happening in a little bit. Let's first get into some of the dirty details of this flick. This movie was released March 4th. It has a runtime of 2 hours and 56 minutes. Yes, that does seem a little long. It's about 3 hours long. It was produced by Warner Brothers, DC Comics, and a production company called 6th and Idaho. It's directed by Matt Reeves, who is also known for some of the Planet of the Apes flicks. He did some of the Cloverfield flicks, and he's most notable for the TV series Felicity back in the day. This film, like I said, stars Robert Pattinson, but it also has Zoe Kravitz, Paul Dano, Jeffrey Wright, and John Turturro, who I absolutely love dearly. But also, in case you didn't know, Colin Farrell. And I say maybe in case you didn't know, because he looks not like himself in this movie. It is crazy. I, in fact, didn't recognize him, didn't know that it was him until the person I went to the movie theater with told me so. And then I spent the rest of the movie trying to figure out if it was really him or not. All right, we are gonna start the slight spoiler talk. So count down from 3, go. That was really lame. I'm going to try not to do that again. So let's get into the synopsis of this flick. The Batman ventures into Gotham City's underworld when a sadistic killer leaves behind a trail of cryptic clues. As the evidence begins to lead closer to home and the scale of the perpetrator's plans become clear, he must forge new relationships, unmask the culprit, and bring justice to the abuse of power and corruption that has long plagued the metropolis. A killer fact is Robert Pattinson has signed a 3-picture deal with Warner Brothers. So The Batman will not be a standalone flick. There will be 2 more, so we can look forward to that in the future. When those will drop, I have no idea. Another fun fact is this is the first Batman movie to directly address the black eye makeup that he wears underneath his mask. Generally, we have seen in other Batman movies, he is clearly wearing black eye makeup underneath his mask, but when he is unmasked, the makeup is miraculously gone, and it is never addressed as to whether he puts it on, whether he takes it off, what's happening with it. But in this flick, you do see the black eye makeup when the mask is off, and it is running and patchy and sweating down his face to show that he truly has been out on the town doing some rough stuff. I personally loved the addition of the black eye makeup when the mask is off. I think it just makes more sense for the character because he clearly is out and about on the town in the dead of night, kicking ass and taking names. He's probably getting sweaty. He's probably getting dirty. He's not fecking around this time. So when he takes his mask off, to see that eye makeup not in pristine condition like you see it underneath the mask, but also to just see it in general, I liked that little addition. It was small, but I feel like it was important. So getting into another killer fact about this film, as I addressed already, Colin Farrell is indeed in this movie, and he plays Penguin. I was super surprised to find out that that was Colin Farrell, and I literally spent the entire movie just staring at his character, trying to find some resemblance of Colin Farrell inside of there, and there was none. I could not even see it. You know, a lot of times you see these characters where they got all the prosthetics on and the fat suits and all the things, and you can still resemble them a little bit. There was no resemblance of Colin Farrell in there, and plus the character that he portrayed on top of that his personality wasn't even in there. One of the killer facts is Matt Reeves stated Colin Farrell's Penguins was inspired by Fredo from The Godfather. And if you take a look at Colin Farrell's Penguin character in this movie, he does come off very mobster. From what we know in history, the Batman movies do surround some of the issues involving the mob and how they're taking over the city and those kind of things. So it just kind of makes sense for his character to be a little mobstery, for lack of better words. Obviously, you guys know from the trailer that the Riddler does make an appearance in this movie. He felt more like a serial killer, and I think that's because Matt Reeves also stated his inspiration for the Riddler was based off of the famous Zodiac killer, who was indeed a real-life serial killer. So that's why this film, I think, has gotten the reputation of being more like a horror flick, which is why I was actually excited to go see it. I wanted to see how dark and gritty and how far across that line they were going to go. Unfortunately, they didn't cross that line as much as I was hoping they were gonna, but it is Batman, and he does have rules that he follows. So though he does blur the lines a little bit between what is okay and what is not okay, what is appropriate and what has gone too far in the ways of his fighting and those kinds of things, it doesn't quite get to horror status for me. I am a little disappointed in the story. I feel like with every Batman movie or reboot or whatever these Batman movies are supposed to be, we've been getting just the same old story over and over and over again, just told a little differently, and the characters are portrayed a little differently depending on the actors who are playing them, but it's still always the same point in Batman's life. It's always about his parents being murdered. It always has something to do with the villains we've seen in the past, the Riddler or the Joker or whatever. So I would just like to see a Batman movie where they do something a little different. Yes, the Christian Bale Batman movies, they do address kind of a prequel a little bit. But I don't know. I would just like to see some maybe different villains come in. This is a series of comic books. There's got to be some villains that haven't been introduced yet or something like that. I would just like to see the story not surrounding Batman's parents being murdered. But that's just my own personal preference. I am not a superhero guru, so please don't hold this review against me. These are just my opinions and my observations of this movie in particular. Also, the addition of Catwoman in this one, I don't have any feelings about her either way. I just wish they would have left the love story out of it. It just didn't feel very realistic to me between Robert Pattinson and Zoe Kravitz in this one. I feel like they could have just left that out and still had them team up in a way throughout the film, and it would have been the exact same movie. The addition of that little tiny love story, which I know Catwoman and Batman have had in the past, I feel like it was portrayed so much better between Michelle Pfeiffer and Michael Keaton in Batman Returns. I feel like it was more successful in that movie, but even then in that movie, it wasn't portrayed like a love affair or a true love story. It was more like a love-hate relationship. Like, I want to care about you, but I know I shouldn't care about you. And in the end, when you died or didn't die, I didn't really care. I don't know. It was just different in that one. It wasn't like a full-hearted love story. In this one, it just felt pushed, It felt like they were just trying too hard to make it a thing, and it just wasn't a thing. It didn't come across as a thing, so I could have done without that. But honestly, it didn't make or break the movie for me. My favorite parts of this film, spoiler, there was a pretty epic chase scene. The car in this flick is different than the Batmobile we've seen in others. It was a transformed muscle car from what I understand. And it was like a character on its own. And I was actually kind of sad. I wanted to see more of the car. The car was so fucking badass. And it was kind of scary just the way the car came into the flick. Maybe another reason why this was kind of a horror story, but I feel like the car itself was a character all on its own. And that chase scene when Batman is chasing Penguin down the highway and just it wasn't clean like the chase scenes you usually see where there's a lot of cool, you know, car effects and stunts and all of this stuff. It was dirty and it was gritty and it was messy, and that's what you would assume a crash scene would be. And the way they filmed it with the cinematography, it was very janky, and like the movements weren't smooth and stuff, because it really made you feel like you were in those cars in that chase scene. And the Batmobile in this one, I don't even want to call it the Batmobile. I just want to call it the Bat Monster machine, you know, was super fucking awesome. That whole scene was great. I loved it. One of my other favorite parts in this flick kind of reminded me a little bit of the TV show Daredevil, where Batman comes out of the elevator and it's completely dark, and then, you know, the mobster guys are shooting at him and all you see are the muzzle flares, and then there's a part where he's walking down the hallway and the bullets are just bouncing off of his chest, creating sparks, and he's like kicking these guys' asses. It reminded me of the hallway scene and the elevator scene at Daredevil. The fighting was just amazing in that scene. The muzzle flares are the only reason why you could even see what was going on, and it was kind of strobe effect. So it was just a really cool scene. It was well choreographed with the fighting, and the cinematography was beautiful. So that scene really caught my eye. I loved that one. And one of my least favorite scenes, this is the scene where Robert Pattinson's acting faltered a little bit for me, is when he goes to the hospital to see Alfred, and he has his hair down in his face, and he's almost like holding his neck and his head in such a way to keep his hair in his face, and he's trying to look all dark and brooding, and he's moving in this really awkward way, and he sits down and he has this conversation with Alfred. It was so unbelievable. It brought me right back to Twilight with the awkward Edward Cullen performance, and it broke me out of the movie just a little bit. Maybe he has trouble trying to show that he has true feelings for another person. Maybe he's better at just the dark and brooding and I don't give a fuck attitude. I don't know. But that part really took me out of it. The kill award for this flick does go to John Turturro. Yes, the way he died wasn't very glamorous and it wasn't very creative, but in the end, you just really wanted him to fucking die. And I was afraid that it wasn't going to happen. I thought justice was going to prevail, as it probably should have. And he was going to live, but in the end, he fucking died. And it was a good feeling. You almost wanted to clap a little bit for that one. My final thoughts on it. It was a good movie. I liked it quite a bit. It had some great action. It was very atmospheric. Robert Pattinson actually did a really great job in this one. The performances alone were all great, especially Colin Farrell. He ruled the day for me in this flick. He made this movie for me. His performance and his special effects and his prosthetics were just on point. They fucking nailed it with Penguin in this one, and that character blew me away in this film. You can go check out my Letterboxd review on it. It's a written review. That link will be in the description box below. I did give it 4 stars and a heart. The only reason why this film got 4 stars for me is because the story was just a little bland, because we've seen it over and over and over again. But I did give it 4 stars and a heart. I highly recommend going to check this one out. Get to the theaters if you can get to the theaters to see this one. It is worth it to see this one in a big screen and in the theater atmosphere. It won't kill you. Go check it out. And that's it. That's my review of The Batman. So if you guys want to hit me in the comments below, let me know if you have seen it and what your thoughts were about it. Did you have the same things to say about it as I did, or did you absolutely fucking hate it? And if you did, tell me why. Maybe I missed something, you know? I'm putting this review out there after only seeing it one time in the theater, and you know the theater experiences always trump any kind of at-home experience. So anyway, the physical media release of this flick is still to be determined, but it does appear it's going to get a 4K and a Blu-ray release. So there's that. Anyway, thank you so much for hanging out with me today. I appreciate you guys greatly. If you would like to help support me and my channel, go ahead and hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and kill that bell for your girl, and share me with your friends if they have seen this movie or have not seen this movie and want to watch my review. Also, if you'd like to further help support me and my channel, log on over to my Patreon page. I have some things going on over there, and I'm more than open to anything that you guys want to suggest over there. So check it out and let me know. It just helps keep my dream alive and yourselves entertained and these beautiful lights on in the building. But until the next time we gather, have a killer day. Bye. I am Batman. I am Edward.